Why are PowerCranks such a powerful running or rehabilitation tool? I presume you're watching this video because you'd like to improve your running. There are three major areas the runner can focus on to see improvement. While each of these areas by itself can improve running some, working on the three together is where one will see the really big improvement. These areas are training load and intensity. An increased training load in time, mileage, or intensity will result in natural improvement over time for almost everyone. 2. Improved running form. In general, the best runners have the most efficient stride. Learning a more efficient running form means one goes faster for the same energy expenditure than before. This is where the average runner will see the biggest gains. And 3. Avoiding injury. Getting injured sets back both your fitness level and your running form. This video concentrates on the last two elements of this triad, improving form and reducing risk of injury, because PowerCranks helps in both of these areas. Hopefully after watching you will understand why.
Been a 100-meter sprinter for the last 17 years, been on 11 U.S. national teams. When you're getting up to the elite levels of sprinting, and even just at the entry levels, you want to have proper mechanics. And sometimes it's hard to communicate how you want that done to an athlete. And the PowerCranks is a good way to get the athlete doing that motion that you're trying to get, and for them to have that feel, to feel what they're supposed to do. And it also starts to put the things that you want in the muscle memory of the athlete. So even if an athlete doesn't totally get it when you explain it, you can put them on the PowerCranks, their body will go through it, and they'll start to adapt, and they'll be able to remember the pattern that you're actually trying to teach. So it's a good tool.
And that pattern you're trying to teach is?
Well, basically in sprinting and in running, you're talking about a rotational cycling of your sprint mechanics, where the foot actually comes up and around over the calf or over the knee, strikes down right underneath the center of gravity, or approximately a few inches in front of that. And with the PowerCrank, you're allowed to do that, whereas on a regular bike, you really can't mimic that mechanic that well. The better athletes, or the quicker athletes, tend to be able to produce a lot more force into the ground with the shortest amount of ground time. So actually your efforts are not necessarily to just push into the ground, but actually get off of the ground. And with the PowerCrank, you instantly get the feedback as to whether or not you're stalling on the ground or if you're coming up, which is what we would desire. Again, this apparatus, or these cranks, allow you to strengthen the hip flexors, activate the glutes, the hamstrings, the soleus, all of the lower foot. So you integrate everything into the training action instead of just trying to, when you do drills, they're pretty much one-dimensional. You're maybe hitting one muscle group, two muscle groups. This integrates all of them, plus it works on the coordination of all those muscle groups working together.
If you were to describe to another runner the changes you see in the stride, how would you describe that?
And generally what will happen is you have less of what we call in track and field excess back kick, where the foot really reaches out and swings behind the body. You'll get a better form of striking the ground, coming right back up underneath the buttocks and stepping over. So you'll see more of a better front mechanics, where the foot cycles up and in front of the body, and decreased back mechanics, which is really where a lot of athletes have their problems in terms of speed. It's too much back kick.
Let's take a real-world look at what Aaron is talking about. Let's compare two runners, one a professional marathoner and Olympic medalist, and the other a professional multi-sport athlete. Both of them are pretty good runners, but one is a lot better than the other. For illustration, I have slowed both runners down to where one stride takes the same amount of time for each runner. Note what the marathoner does differently. 1. He gets his foot off the ground quicker. 2. He gets his foot moving forward after push-off quicker. 3. He uses his hamstrings more to get his foot higher, to shorten the lever arm, making it easier to swing the leg forward. And 4. In his front mechanics, his lower leg barely passes vertical, and his foot comes down more under his center of gravity, causing less braking force. All of these efficiencies allow for faster leg turnover and speed for the same effort. PowerCranks helps encourage all of these improvements in the runner. For example,
Well, normally when an athlete sprints who's not really trained in his running form, you'll see a back kick where the toe drops and the foot goes back straight like this. Well, on the cranks, you're forced to keep a dorsiflexion, in other words, toe up action, so that you have no opportunity to let the knee drop and the foot to go back, or even let the toe point down. As soon as you get to here and you let that toe point down, the crank stalls. So you actually automatically get instant feedback on how you ride the bike. So you have to keep that dorsiflexion action, which means now you're cycling versus if I drop my toe, I stop. So you start to eliminate that aspect of your running.
two former world record holders at both ends of the running spectrum are now using PowerCranks to help them with their coaching practice.
The first year I used the cranks, I set the age group record for 38-year-olds in 100 meters at a time of 10.34, so not bad for an old man.
Running, I saw PRs in my 5K distance within 3 or 4 weeks.
I usually do this test set for my running. It's about 4 by a mile, so I see how fast I can do my mile repeats, and normally they're about 5:20. 5 minutes and 20 seconds per mile. Got out running in the spring and I went 5:15, 5:10, 5:05, and 4:58. And I was like, wow, where'd that come from? Because I'd hardly run at all. I've been doing his PowerCranks work on the trainer, and I was pretty impressed.
I used to run like 3:15 marathons, and which is the hardest I could. I get the PowerCranks, and I do my first marathon in under 3 hours with no soreness.
Got the PowerCranks about 4 months before the New York City Marathon. I rode them, I'd say, twice a week, and then ran like 3 or 4 times a week. Did the New York City Marathon 10 times. I PR'd.
The PowerCranks for us are a great way to reproduce and replicate the mechanics of running without the impact on the joints. You've got everything from the dorsiflexion in the ankle to the hip flexion, as well as the hip extension on the contralateral side. And because of the uniqueness of the PowerCranks and their independent function of one another, it recreates running, the running gait, better than anything that we've ever used in the past.
Performance improvements right off the bat. I work a lot on the neural training side and working on stride mechanics and making sure those are right from the very start. And there's nothing that can cover the spectrum of this of gait mechanics than the PowerCranks.
Check out these PowerCranks power users. In 2006, Coach Leroy Burrell of the University of Houston got a PowerCranks exercise bike for his track team. 2 months later, sprinter Ebony Floyd took 0.21 seconds off her personal best for the 60 meters and 0.63 seconds off her personal best for the 200 meters. Wow! There's absolutely no other product on the market like PowerCranks. Run faster, a lot faster, prevent injury, and better rehab of the already injured. All-in-one product, all guaranteed. Wow! What are you waiting for?